All right, y'all give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. Pick up this John 5 and 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life. And there are they which testify of me. And you will not have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you. But you have not the love of Allah in you. Do not think that I will accuse you to Allah. There is one that accuses you, even Moses, of whom you trust. So had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? Well, Proverbs 11 and 16, where we at, right? A gracious woman retains honor. Shalom, young man. Shalom, Brother Harrison. Shalom, Tavon. So, gracious woman retains honor, and strong men retain riches. We started our journey down the pathway of that particular pathway. So we hit the word for strong, pause. So let's take a look at that now. Oh, my shoulder just went to throbbing like out of nowhere on general principle. So remember, strong as I read is awe-inspiring, awesome and mighty. Ayin, Rosh, Yad, and Sa is to know the way of the work of the highest. Shalom. So if you know the way of the work of the highest, this is where the awesomeness comes in at. This is why you've seen that. Let's just take a look at the awesome sight the two men saw in that regard. We started on Wednesday looking at the regard of that Roman centurion who, when he seen Yahusha die and the temple rent, the veil in the temple rent, he feared greatly. He said, this is the son of Elohim. He was convinced at that point. But let's look at Acts chapter 7. And then we'll look at another instance of this here, because these were two individuals who knew the way of the work highest, and therefore, in that regard, were able to see something awesome and mighty. So I'm going to pick it up at about 7 and 47. Acts chapter 7, verse 47.
Why are you getting up?
But Solomon built him a house. Howbeit the Most High dwell not in temples made with hands, as say the prophet. Shamahim is my throne, and earth is my footstool. What house will you build? Will you build me, saith Yahuwah? Or what is the place of my rest? Now we also have to finish something in Daniel 10 that we did not complete. But we'll look at this here just on general principle of what he's speaking. He say, what house will you build for him? So let's hold this Acts chapter 7. Let's take a look at Romans chapter 8. And I meant to say Hebrews chapter 8, not Romans. My apologies. What's up, cuz? What's up? You all right? You got a haircut? You feeling happy? Debonair? Suave?
Say, you're not getting more. Don't go back to my cigarette.
Hebrews 8 and 1. It says, now the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. So he's saying of all the things that we spoke of, this is the totality of it. We have such a high priest who was set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in Shamahim, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which Yahuwah pitched and not man. Remember, he said he don't dwell in temples made with hands. Well, why is this important? Because because this entered into my head earlier today. What was I thinking about? I was thinking about something with the Ruach, but I'm trying to recall what it was that made that come to me. That's what it was. So we're dealing with a temple not made with man's hands. Now, I'm not there. I'm going to go ahead and share with you what came to my mind and why it came to my mind. Something that I've shared with people plenty of time. Because we have to know the way of the works of the highest. We have to know the way of the work of Yahuwah. Now, a lot of people talk about polygyny all the time. Some people feel like it's in the law, it's acceptable. That's you. I don't roll with it, but I don't roll with it because of the gospel. Simple and plain, no other reason than that, because I don't have a personal feeling about it either way. My personal opinion is I don't care. If you want 17 wives or you want one, that ain't got nothing to do with me because I personally just don't care. But as far as the gospel is concerned, I cannot roll with that based off of the gospel. And the thing about the reason why I mentioned that is because this is my segue into dealing with that this is the tabernacle that Yahuwah has pitched and not man. So we have to look at Adam in that regard. But before we do that, because we're good in Hebrews 8, let's come to John chapter 2. And then we will begin that because we'd have to know the word after this John chapter 2, we'll grab Michael 4. And again, we're just setting the stage because this is still showing how strong man retains riches. Let's get to John chapter 2, man, verse 14. And again, I only mention that because that's what sparked my thought process on it as far as that regard, because what people choose to do. We've been so far past particular the conversation, you know what I'm saying, that it's shalom, man, that it's grossly irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? Dudes still argue about polygyny. Dudes still argue about women wearing pants. Dudes still argue about the Sabbath. Dudes still argue about the 12 tribes chart, and that stuff is insignificant. It's inconsequential at this particular juncture of the church of serving Yahuwah. But nevertheless, 2 and 13 will make it better. And the Yahudim's Passover was at hand. Yahushua went up to Jerusalem and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of the money sitting. And when you know what, and on top of this here, I seen an individual, man. This is why you need to know the law. I seen individuals saying that Yahushua whipped these people in here because they were selling animal flesh because Yah hate for you to eat animal flesh. Pure absurdity. You should remember that these people were in here selling this stuff because it was Passover, and the law tell you that if you were coming from a far distance, that you could take what you was going to offer to Yahuwah, turn it into money, and then buy that stuff when you got there to your heart's desire. That's why they were there. Now, the error was that they were selling in the temple. That's why he whooped them. He didn't whoop them for what they were selling. He whooped them for what they were selling it at. But see, this is what individuals don't do. You don't actually look and see what's occurring. You look and you infer what you want to infer to push what you want to push. But like I said, if you would have known the law, and it's in Leviticus, it's in Deuteronomy, if you know the law, then you know why they were there. They were not there just to there. It was Passover. For those 3 feasts, you had to come up every year. That's Passover, that's Pentecost, and that's Tabernacles. That these people were selling these things for people who were coming from a long distance on the feast that couldn't bring the animals that they were going to bring to sacrifice to Yahuwah. He didn't whoop these people for selling animals. That's absurdity. Absurdity. This is why Yahushua said, the writer, John specifically, stated that those who don't know Torah are cursed. You're damned if you don't know the Torah. And not for the keeping of the Torah. You're damned if you don't know the Torah because you don't know the sum of these things, that we have a high priest that sit on the right hand of majesty and Shamahim, meaning you don't know the son of Elohim. And if you don't know the son, then you don't have life. I don't care what you're doing. If you don't know Elohim, you don't have life. I don't care what you're doing. It doesn't matter. You're going to perish. You will burn in hell. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to sit there and look at it and wonder why. Because you did not believe the testimony that the Father left of his Son. And we're going to deal with all that because all that ran through me. You know, all type of script go through my head. Sometimes stuff go through my head while I'm asleep. And I just pray y'all let it come back to mind later on in the day. This is a true story, no cap. You know what I'm saying? Verse 15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables, and said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my Abba's house a house of merchandise. He's quite clear what his ought was with these men. He was quite clear on that. And that's also in Jeremiah chapter 7. He's quite clear on that. Yahuwah's house is that's why you see people selling stuff in the sanctuary. I don't care what it's at, but somebody that ain't right. But did you see about Benny Hinn? Did you see about Benny Hinn? Who y'all see about Benny Hinn? And you know the worst part is now, People were ridiculing Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn say, I'm tired of preaching the prosperity gospel. It ain't right. Benny Hinn say, and I'm turning from what I've been doing for all these years because it ain't right. And all I can sit back and look at, regardless about how you feel about Benny Hinn or anybody of his ilk, I must respect a man who can stand up and say, I've been teaching an error and I was wrong and I turned from it. Who am I to castigate and condemn this man and cast a multitude of aspersions on the man? If the man can come out publicly in front of people who he's been preaching this and teaching this to for decades and say, we wrong, we going in another direction. All I can say is I respect it. Somebody asked, well, what he going to do with all the money? That's between him and Yahuwah, because I ain't got nothing to do with it. But I do respect, maybe he'll return it tenfold. Who knows? Because there is no provision in Torah for people taking money for preaching the word falsely. You know, whatever judgment that he's accrued over the course of the years is up to Yahuwah to render. But I ain't gonna knock the man for saying I was in error, and I ain't gonna do that no more. Respect it, because most people won't even say nothing. You got Brew be dead wrong. You know what I'm talking about? I ain't gonna say nothing. And nigga got a problem with Benny Hinn saying he wrong. Niggas be hypocrites all the way around the ball. And his disciples remember that it was written, the zeal of your house have eaten me up. Then answered the Yahudim and said unto him, what sign show up you unto us, seeing you do these things? Yahushua answered and said unto them, destroy this temple in 3 days, I will raise it up. Then said the Yahudim, 46 years was this temple in building, and you will rear it up in 3 days? He spake of the temple of his body. Now, this is a temple that no man made but Yahuwah himself. How can we prove this? How can we rationalize this and so forth that? Let's take a look at Micah chapter 4. Micah 4 and 6, if I remember correctly. No, we don't want 4 and 6. I think I'm in the wrong place. No, I might have been in the right place. Trying to remember. And I always forget the doggone verse. It's not chapter 5, is it? I don't believe so. But yeah, we're going to run through this real quick. This also will show you the fact of what made Yahushua strong from the jump street in order to retain said riches. People may agree. People may not agree. I was right the first time. Let's go ahead. Micah 4 and 6. It said, in that day, saith Yahuwah, I will assemble her that halt, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast off, far off, a strong nation. Let's look at it and see what that is for halted, because I'm intrigued. Let's look at what we can get for halted, because I am intrigued. We have the word salah. It means to be limp or to be lame. Sad, lamad, and ayin. So he's letting you know that I will assemble her that he's made limp or made lame. Now something's coming to my mind in that regard. The verse is in my head, but where is it at is the question. Give me a second. That ain't it, but I can use it though. Yep, that's what it was. So let's take a look at this here. Let's do this here, right? We'll do 3 things at one time. First and foremost, hold this here Micah chapter 4. And let's go to Job 29. Because if we're dealing with lame, we're dealing with being limp. Sad, lamad, and ayin. I want y'all to keep that in mind as we take this trip to Job 29 and 14. Praise the Lamb. I want you to come to Job That works even better. Praise the Lamb, because that's going to work in everything that I'm trying to work. 29:8. Job 29:8. Just bear with me, because we're taking a long road. Because I'm trying to take a long road to make sure that I have every young man present with me, y'all willing, we're alive in the flesh for the main part that we're trying to get to. 29:8, Job. Make it 7. He said, when I went out to the gate through the city, when I prepared my seat in the street, the young men saw me and hid themselves, and their age rose and stood up. The princes refrained talking and laid their hands on their mouth. And if you know that, you know when Yahushua was doing this thing, you know a lot of people didn't talk when he was talking. The nobles held their shalom and their tongue cleaved to the roof of their mouth. He heard me, then it baruched me. And when the eye saw me, it gave witness to me. Now, see, that's what we were going. See, I was going to do the witness part on the back end, but now I'm going to do it on the front end. Because we got to do it on the front end, because what we were talking about with Baal, which is the Bat, the Ayin, and the Lamad, you know and experience the teachings of the Son. So when you are a husband, an owner, if you will, you're leading a woman, you have to give witness to the Son in order to be able to be a proficient and sufficient husband for this woman. Ain't nobody showing them nothing. So we end up taking on the attributes of a woman, that I don't need to seek any counsel, that I don't need to get advisement from anyone, because I know what I'm doing and I'm going to do it my way regardless. And that is a feminine attitude. That is not a masculine attitude, because that's not how men are taught. Men are not taught to do that. Men are taught to seek out people wiser than them or more experienced than them in certain endeavors, take in that information, and then move forward as such. But because we're raised by women who do things whimsically and do things without a roadmap and without a plan, you know what I'm saying? We tend to follow suit. This is quite damaging in regards to, you know, for Hebrew masculinity. And when we talk about masculinity, we're talking about in the full scope of the play. Any one of us who were raised without a father on a consistent basis, myself included, you're going to suffer for that in some shape, form, or fashion. It's just a given, because there are things that a woman cannot give a man because she is not one. You know what I'm saying? The same token when I mentioned to y'all, like, yeah, when this man say, hey, the fact that you live in a single parent household can cause you to have lack of respect for male authority, which can cause you to have dust ups and run ups with other men or men in authority. How are you going to disrespect single mothers? You triggered. You triggered because of your bad decision making, and because that you're constantly put on a pedestal. And that men, and you feel like that men should put you on a pedestal, worship you, honor you, and say everything that pleases you, and never call you out for your bad choices and decision making. This is one of the reasons why a lot of young men despise accountability, because the average woman despises accountability. So his mother's not holding him accountable. So guess what he grows up being? Never being held accountable. So when he becomes a man and he comes across a man of accountability, and that man begins to hold him accountable, now he's a hater, or this person is evil, or he trying to do this, that, there, and the third. No, you just a sucker. You know what I'm talking about? And a punk, bald-headed hoe yourself, just like your mammy. That's what you is. You know what I'm saying? But see, you can't talk to people like that, because that will cause a physical altercation. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you're feminine and you weak. And we can't do that, because you have to be held accountable. Because y'all know, y'all already know. Every woman on here know. Everybody don't like to hear it. Women don't like to be held accountable. And because they rarely are, this is why they continue to make bad choices and bad decisions. And because no one's holding that woman accountable, and she's raising the sons, no one's holding him accountable. And guess what? He despises and hates it when someone does it to him. Then they come to Yahuwah, and then they feel like no one should hold them accountable for the things that they do while they serve Yahuwah. But that's not how they work, man, because Yahuwah about accountability. You're going to give account. You can give account when somebody is rebuking you, or you can give account on the last day when the book's open. The choice is yours. I would recommend you go ahead and just take the accountability now, because you don't want to take it when the book's open. No, got your milkshake over there? You milkshake? I meant to grab me a blizzard today. I seen a Dairy Queen. I said, you know what?
The blizzard sounds like.
Yeah, I did. That's how I felt. You know what I mean? But shoot, I had to do too much driving, so I didn't make it. I ain't had a blizzard a long time, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean to get nobody no shameless plug, but shoot, nigga, if you like milkshakes, 'cause that's all the blizzard is, a superior milkshake to say the least. That nigga asked what's your favorite milkshake. I say, nigga, just name one from Dairy Queen. Yeah, man. Just excuse me. I had a fat child moment. Nevertheless, where was I headed to? I don't even remember. Oh, I was a joke because I read it on the phone. Yes, they are delightful, sir. Yes, they are. Very much so. That's what just right. He know that. He said, hey, boy, that blizzard from Dairy Queen, just right.
I don't hold it upside down. You know it's real.
You know it's real. But if you can't hold that blizzard upside down, ain't no blizzard. They ain't nothing but some hot milk. But check it, right? That's right, the witness. Swing over here to Job 16. Let's go ahead and do it like that. Job 16 and 16. True story, this stuff, and these scripts that I done hit in the past, but it's true story. This is what we're going through when I was thinking about that. Make that verse 15. You know, and I'll share it with you. I'll share it with you. 16 and 15. We'll come right back to Job 29. Well, not right back. So hold Job 29 along with what the other one is. I got it. I got my pen on it. Micah chapter 4. He said, he has sewed sackcloth upon my skin and defiled my horn in the dust. So pause. Let's look at this here, right? Defiled my horn in the dust. And again, they're still dealing with his strength and what makes him awe-inspiring. When we look at defile, it is a law. It's to deal severely with, to be severely dealt with. You have Ayin and Tulamad. So guess what? He gets to experience and know the shepherd's rod. What's the rod used for? Correction, correct? So this is how he defiled his skin. Because what did he do? What did they do with Yahushua? They slapped him upside the head with a reed, didn't they? Bam! Right upside his head. Spit on him, slapped him, defiled his skin. That's why he sewed sackcloth on it. You sew sackcloth for what? Mourning. He says, my horn, which is Koran, which which that's your horn, your container for oil. So when you look at that, what is the container for oil? That's his body, because the oil, dust, powder, earth, and that's what we came here for. Ayin, Pei, and Raj. So you get to know the dust. This is how you get to know the gospel. See, you can't know the gospel unless you get immersed. Oh, we have technical difficulties. You can't know the gospel unless you get immersed. Can't know it. That's what he just said. Both times. You can't know it without it. This is imperative. See, now, of course, if we had a stronger culture, then, of course, you would have been raised in this fashion as a young man, raised up in the admonition and fear of Yahuwah from your inception. Therefore, you would have already been trained for the purpose. Oh, I didn't read that word for sackcloth, but I will do it for you now, sir. The word for sackcloth is sak, mesh, sackcloth, sacking, warning, mourning, or humiliation. Shan and kuf. So guess what? You get to consume the last, or the consumption of the last Adam. Because remember, he was humiliated for our sakes. And that's what Isaiah 53 said. He was humiliated for your sake. So he's sown on humiliation. You don't have to take on the humiliation that he took on. All you have to do is just be buried in the likeness of his death. But let's continue, because I'm leading somewhere. Let's continue. He said, my face is foul with weeping, on my eyelids is the shadow of death. Not for any injustice in my hands, also my prayer is pure. We already know that. Pilate said, I ain't find no fault in it. I ain't find no fault in it. Nevertheless, he said, O earth, cover not you my blood, and let my cry have no place. Now pause. In the epistle to the Hebrews, what did it say about what his name is? Abel's blood. What it said about Abel's blood? It said in Genesis 2. What it said his blood did? Cried out to the ground. You know what I'm saying? So guess what? He said don't cover his blood, right? Well, so when Yahushua got pierced in the blood and water came out inside, you don't think his blood cried out because his prayer was pure. Same thing with Abel. We went over that in the past many, many years ago, though. Probably about a good 4 or 5 years. Now look at verse 19. And now behold, my witness is in heaven, my record is on high. That's what he said, right? His witness is in heaven. His record is on high. Remember, we just talked about witness. That's that odd. Ayin Dalit. You get to know the sacrifice. That's the witness. The record is also means witness. It's Sahad, Shan, Hay, and Dalit. So guess what? You get to behold the parent to the hanging, or you get to the man with raised arms is consumed by sacrifice or by hanging. Oh, word, no doubt, no doubt. Either way, when you see Sa'ed or Ed, you get Yahushua's sacrifice for the witness. This is why he says, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And he say, oh fools, oh slow of heart to believe all the prophets have spoken. Ought not Hamashiach had to suffer to enter into his esteem? Because the witness and record that is on high bears witness to the sacrifice of Yahushua HaMashiach. So that's why if you don't believe in the Son, then you don't have life. Because life is coming from death. Period. That's how it goes down. That's the witness. Nevertheless, we hit that Job 16. Do I need to finish Job 29? I ain't finished Job 29, but I'll get back to it. I need to come to John chapter 5. Indeed. Now that cry not having no place to be, my Elohim, why have you forsaken me? He had no place for that cry. But you can look at it in that regard with him asking, there ain't no place for that cry. Asking for that cut to pay, ain't no place. I'm not listening. I'm not hearing it. My prayer pure, but I don't want to hear it. That's what you want to make sure too, that your prayer is pure. Same way that Paul made mention of, I exercise my conscience to not be an offense to Elohim and man. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, niggas be arguing about a lot of things. But I've been telling y'all this. Ain't no brew talking about trusting and believing in the Most High. Next thing they worry about is you sound like a Christian. That's what a nigga worry about. I seen the preacher today, dude called me a false prophet. What you care for? Nigga, they call the Lord worse than that. They call him a blasphemer. You worry about a nigga calling you a false prophet. So what? Niggas probably say all manner of things about me, some things to my face. I care less. Well, and that's what nigga problem is. You worry about what a nigga saying about you. You ought to rejoice if a nigga said it and it's a lie. That means your name written in heaven. What you care for? That's what niggas problem is. You worry about what somebody got to say about you. You worry about what somebody think about you. But do you worry about what Yahuwah got to say about you? Do you worry about what Yahuwah think about you? Do you remember when we focused in on the fact that he said about Daniel, this was a man greatly beloved? Do you know how beautiful a thing that it has to be for a man to be known in heaven, that Yahuwah say, I greatly beloved this man? Why niggas ain't worried about that? I want to have that type of testimony. That's what our mind should be. Well, Yahuwah say, I'm greatly beloved. I'm greatly beloved in Yahuwah's house. I'm greatly beloved in Yahuwah's house. Well, man hates your shoes. I don't care, nigga. Yahuwah love me, though. So what I care what a man think. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at that. I have my opinions on things of that nature, not on that particular gentleman because I don't know him. But I can say that representation of that statement leads me to believe that you're someone who seeks outward validation. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. Niggas say whatever they want to say about me. You know what I'm saying? You can think whatever you want to think. What does Yahuwah think is more important? The only people you should be concerned about what they think about you is the people that matter to you the most. Outside of that, somebody you don't know, who cares? A nigga say something about you because they don't agree with what you preaching, who cares? 9 times out of 10, they're not going to directly confront you about it anyway. So what does it matter? Irrelevant things to focus upon. But that's just my 2 cents and a quarter for that. John chapter 5, verse 30. He said, I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of Abba which have sent me. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. There's another that bear witness of me, and I know that the witness which he witnessed of me is true. You sent unto John, and he bear witness unto the truth. Remember what John said, this is the Lamb of Elohim who come to take away the sins of the world. John already knew what was going down. That's what he said in John chapter 1, verse 29, for those of you who may not be familiar. I just swing over there for you. You got to run now. He said the next day, John seeth Yahushua and say unto him, coming unto him and saying, behold, the Lamb of Elohim, which take away the sins of the world. Well, how can he be, if he the Lamb of Elohim, he got to be sacrificed. He would bear witness this man is going to be sacrificed. When you know the witness, then you know that Yahushua is to be sacrificed. This is what makes him that strong man, to make him awe-inspiring, to make him awesome, and to make him mighty. You yourself cannot be awesome and mighty without that. I don't care what a nigga talking about. I don't care how many people in your congregation. I don't care how many people watch your videos. I don't care how many people follow you. It doesn't matter how much money you accrue. It doesn't matter your accomplishments. If you don't have the Son, you don't have anything at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And that's what Yahuwah say. That's not what I say. And you have to look at it that way. What's the most important thing? The most important thing is eternal salvation. That's the most important thing. Nothing in your life is more important than that. He said, but I receive not testimony from man, but these things I say that you might be saved. He was a burning and shining light, and you were willing for a season to rejoice in his light. But I have greater witness than that of John, for the works which Abba hath given me to finish, the same works that I do bear witness of me, that Abba has sent me. That's why I mentioned that when you know the law, you know the prophets, then you're gonna know the Son. And if you know the Son, then you know his Father. Period. Which means you would be a part of that household. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're a part of Elohim's household. If you're not a part of Elohim's household, then you're a bastard. See, there's no in between. I was talking to one of the young gentlemen about that. Was that earlier this week or last week? I want to say last week. There's no gray area with Yahuwah. There is no in between. You either down with him or you ain't. That's a hard pill to swallow. But there's no gray area. You got to be sons of Elohim. If you're not a son of Elohim, then what are you? What are you? Because the son, let's look at Romans 8. Just real quick. I'm good at John 5. Then we come back to Joel 29. It's Romans 9, not Romans 8. My apologies for the mistake. Just 9 to 7. We don't be around here long. We still holding Micah chapter 4. That's about it. And besides Joel 29. He said, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall their seed be called. Because what he told them scribe, he can raise children out these stones to Abraham. Well, he don't need you, cuz. Who is you? Don't you dare put up in your pea brain mind that Yahuwah needs you to do anything for him or for Abraham for that matter. Yahuwah don't need nobody to do nothing because he's Yahuwah. What you mean? What you mean? That's what make him Yahuwah. He don't need you. He don't need you for nothing. We need him. That's the thing that we have to realize. We need him. He don't need us. That's why we move and do the things that we do. Because at this point, you have to realize something, man, because I've been telling y'all this for a long time, but you have to realize this is your father. So when you deal with his word, this is your father teaching you. See, most of you not used to sitting down at your father's feet and being taught. That's why you can doze off and scroll on your phone and scratch your butt and fart, pick boogers, and pay attention to everything else because you don't love your daddy like that. Because you ain't never had to submit yourself to a man and take instruction from him and give him your undivided attention. It ain't no excuse for that junk. The same way you niggas be on time for everybody else, but never your father. Don't understand it. How you think your father feel about you when you put him on the back burner and you do things for him when you feel like it? You's a rebellious, disobedient son and worthy to be put out his house. And worthy to be put out his house. Because all that shows him is that's how you did your parents. You can't do him like that. See, your parents tolerated that nonsense. Yahuwah don't tolerate that. You're not a son of his when you operate in that fashion. That don't bring him no delight. That you serve him when you feel like it, on your time. You listen when you feel like listening. You do it when you do it. You's a bastard. You's a rebellious, disobedient, wicked son, not worthy to be called of the family name. Period. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. And that's what it's going to be. That's not going to change. If this your father, you ought to love your father. He the one who gave you life. He the one who giving you the instruction to show you how to navigate and move as a man. So therefore you can teach your generations that come after you how to do the same. That's why he said, I know Abraham. He'll do justice and judgment and teach his household. I know this man because he's one of my sons. So I know he's going to teach his sons what I taught him. Because he delighted to come see me. He delighted to learn from me. Because he already know. Yahuwah will tell you that in Isaiah chapter 48. I'm Yahuwah your Elohim, which leads you in the way that you ought to go and teach you the prophet. What he got to teach you is gain. But you're not used to that because your daddy ain't never taught you nothing. So the thought process of really being attentive to the teaching of a man is a foreign concept to you. You don't understand the service to a man. You don't understand it. Because if you can't do it in the flesh, I'm not doing it to him. You're not fooling nobody. You're just fooling yourself. You're just fooling yourself. And now it's no longer an excuse of you ain't had no dad, and there ain't no excuse for that. Either you love your father or you don't. Either you love his instruction and the things that he had to teach you or you don't. If you don't even love to instruct the instruction from your father, how you going to instruct your wife? Because it's your job to do it. How you going to instruct your children? You set them up for failure to go through the same cycle of stupidity that you went through. And you know the stupidity you went through, and you have the power in your hand to reverse that course, and you choose not to. Ought to be ashamed. Romans 9:7 again, though. He said, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. That is, they which are children of the flesh, these are not the children of God. Let me just say this correctly. They that are of, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all sons, because that's what it says. But in Isaac shall your seed be called. That is, they which are sons of the flesh, these are not the sons of Elohim, but the sons of the promise, accounted for the seed. Now, let's look at what Jacob did in Genesis 29 real quick. Of his delight in Yahuwah and what his father was going to teach him. Because at the end of the day, you have to turn to it and look at, like I've been telling y'all for years, there's two ways you can look at the text, and the text expounds it in these fashions. Let me make sure I'm in the right place. I am not. It's Genesis 28. 28 and 14 is sufficient. And that's husband to wife, son to father, because everyone in this life can relate to either or both. If you can't relate from husband to wife, you can relate from father to son. But sadly, most of us can't relate from father to son because your father wasn't there and he didn't teach you. And that's hamstrung you and your ability to have that level of reverence for your father. Because most of us ain't sit down at no man's feet and were taught anything of substance. Most of us don't have that experience. You don't have those memories. But as I mentioned to y'all before, look at people who had strong male fathers, whether they were in the word or not, and look at their demeanor and how they conduct themselves and how they move and see how drastically different it is from someone who has not had that opportunity. So drastically, it's a total different thing. Because you've been taught to reverence and lift up your mama more than anybody, and that's to your detriment. Genesis 28 and 14. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in you, and in your seed, shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And behold, I'm with you, and will keep you in all places whither you go, and will bring you again into this land. I will not leave you until I've done that which I've spoken of you. Jacob awaked out of his sleep and said, surely Yahuwah is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and say, how dreadful is this place? There is none other but the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of Shamahim. So when we look at that dreadful, it's not the same word, but it's the same thing. It's something that's awesome and terror, awe-inspiring, mighty. He said, this place right here is awesome. This ain't nothing but the house of Elohim. This ain't nothing but the house that Yahuwah has made without hands. That's it, period. This is Yahushua. He don't have that understanding of that. But this is what it is. He said, Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he put for his pillow and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city was called Luz at the first. Jacob vowed, saying, if Elohim be with me and will keep me in this way that I go and give me bread to eat and raiment to put on. And we're going to get back to that raiment. So that I come again to my Abba's house in Shalom, then shall Yahuwah be my Abba. The stone which I set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. And of all that shall you give me, will I surely give a tenth unto you. We'll revisit that stone, y'all willing, on the morrow. So keep that in mind. But look at what he said. If this man be my father, he keep me in the way that I go. So he's going to allow me to retain, guard his word, give me bread to eat, which he's going to give me my word, and give me a ruach to put on. And give me a ruach to put on. Surely this is going to be my Elohim, because what is he looking at? My father clothes and sustains and provides and protects me. So therefore I will give him all honor and reverence. All honor and reverence. And he hangs on his every word. See, Job told you in Job 23, he esteemed you who was word more than his necessary food. That's how he's seen his Father in heaven. See, we don't look at it that way. You don't esteem it because I say you just look at it as it's a nigga talking. You don't look at it as that's your father talking to you. I ain't nobody but a vessel. And anyone just like me is nothing but a vessel for your father to allocute unto you what it is that he wants you to do. Job 29. And if you remember from the law, where did I stop at? Verse 12. If you remember from the law, that's what you asked for. You said you didn't want to hear Elohim talk to you no more. So he said, you know what? You'll hear it from a man. But at the end of the day, our level of respect for our Father in heaven must be increased 100-fold if we expect to receive the gift of salvation of which he has to offer. We can't expect to receive the gift of salvation with lackluster and lukewarm respect for our Father in heaven. You can't expect that. That's not a reasonable expectation. Verse 12 of Job 29. Because I delivered the poor that cried and the fatherless and him that had none to help him. The blessing of him that was ready to perish came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was a robe and a diadem. Remember, they put a scarlet robe and a purple robe on Yahushua. That was his righteousness. The same way that you put the Ruach HaKodesh on. They say, the fine linen, clean and right. That's the righteousness of the saints. And all this here is the building up of this body, which was not made without hands. Because remember, he said his father bare witness of him. He had a greater witness than John. He didn't need a witness of man, because his father bare witness by the Ruach HaKodesh in the mouth of all the prophets to bear witness of his son, to bear witness of the sacrifice of which the son was going to perform, which would cause everyone to be able to have their sins remitted and have the gift of everlasting life. But let's take ourselves back to Micah chapter 4. And again, this is still dealing with the fact that this is a strong man, and this is how you know the way of the work of the highest. Because you can't know it without the witness. You can't know it without the testimony. You can't know it without the record. When you know it, you see how awesome and mighty this man is, and therefore you would reverence and honor him. Because you owe your whole life to him, because you emanate from his loins. The same way that you're supposed to look at your father with that same reverence, because you emanate from his loins. But the reason why we don't have that is because we don't have a strong culture. And unfortunately, all we do is run around and seek the validation of people who don't care about you. Because that's what you're concerned about, is seeking their validation. You want a hug from these people. That's why you always hear black people saying, I want to be equal. Let's be equal. Because you want him to love you like he loves his own kind, versus wanting your Abba in heaven to love you like he loves his own kind. Because that's what the law say, everything after its kind. Yahuwah loves all those that love him. But we don't seek that validation if we put our energy in the things that matter. And that's not to disrespect any other nation of people. But you can't be worried about them and how they feel about you and how they treat you. Why do you care? Why do you care? That's like you being worried about why another man why this man treats you this way and treat his wife another way. Well, you're not his wife. So why do you care? What does that have to do with you? Why do you want to be treated by this man the same way he treats his wife? You're not his wife. It doesn't matter. That's the mindset you got to have. That's none of your business. It ain't nothing to do with you. Now, again, when we were looking at being halted and being lame, I got more. I didn't even read everything I wanted. Did I read everything? In Job 29. I didn't read verse 15. My apologies. He said, I was eyes to the blind and I was feet to the lame. So again, when we were looking at lame, now that's a different word for lame here. And we're not gonna use that word. We're just gonna slide over here to Proverbs 26 and 7 and then to Isaiah 35. Do I want to use Proverbs 26? I'm not sure. Let me see if it's got the same word. No, it's got the word that was in the other one. We'll wait for Proverbs 26 because Proverbs 26 will be fun, multi willing when we get there. Let's swing over here to Isaiah 35 off the top. 35 and 3, if you will. I'll start at verse 1 just on general principle. The wilderness and the solitary place shall be them. The desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The esteem of Lebanon shall be given unto it. The excellency of Carmel and Sharon, they shall see the esteem of Yahuwah and the excellency of our Elohim. You're going to see Yahushua in this place because he's talking about when you get gathered. Listen to what he tell you. Strengthen you the weak hands and confirm the feeble knees. Listen to what he says. Say to them that have a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your Elohim will come with vengeance. That should take you back to Luke 18. That he will come with vengeance and he will come speedily. Nevertheless, will he find faith on the earth? Even Elohim with a recompense, he will come and save you. The eyes of the blind shall be opened. The ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap as a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. And parched ground shall become a pool. And thirsty land springs of water, and the habitation of serpents, where each lay shall be grass with reeds and rushes. And the highway shall be there, and the way, and it shall be called the way of Kadash. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those wayfaring men. Though fools shall not err therein. So when we look at this word lamb, and it's probably got the word lame, probably got the same word, and it does. So we're just going to look at it. It's Pesach, and you have a pay, samak, and kai. So what's the thing? It's one grab and hold. What's the other one with it, man? Well, samak. Yeah, that's the only two I remember. Grab and hold and the thorn. So when we look at this one here, you're going to grab hold to the word that separates. When you look at lame people in that regard, he healed them. Caused them to be able to walk straight. Because he said the lame was, like the man who tried to get down there in the pool, but when they troubled the water, but he was never able to make it. Somebody would always jump down there before him. Well, what would make the lame man straight? It's just to grab hold to that word and be separated. See, that's our biggest problem is that we don't care to be separated. Now, the word for halted, again, was salah. And that's the sad, the mad, and the ayin. So we sit to see the teaching, to get to experience the teaching of the way. When you limp and you lame. But you don't get to experience that. Why? Because he said that in that day he's going to assemble her that halted. So what is that assembling? That's to gather together of his body. Because now once he gathered together his body, now they can experience or know the teaching of the way. Because you didn't know it before. And then he said, I will gather her that is driven out and her that I have afflicted. And I will make her that halted a remnant. So those of you who have been lame and limp, this is in Micah chapter 4. He says he's going to allow you to experience or know this teaching of the way, or to experience and know the way of the shepherd. Because remember, he said, my sheep know my voice and they follow me. This is what's going to occur. This is what Yahushua is going to bring forth in this witness. That remnant, remember, remnant ain't but a handful. So remember, if he said the children of the sons of the flesh are not counted, but the sons of the promise, everybody ain't making it. Everybody Yahuwah don't want. And we'll deal with that on tomorrow as well. This all everything y'all willing to set up for the next time. And then we bring it all full circle. We're in verse 8 though. Well, let me that. He said, I will make her a hall to the remnant, her that was cast off, far off, a strong nation. And Yahuwah shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. And you, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto you shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. First dominion. That's Adam. We already know that. We're looking at a temple that's not made with hands. So we need to go back to Genesis chapter 2 and see a temple not made with man's hands. That a man didn't make it. Because this is where Yahuwah say he dwells at. And if we know on the way to know the way of the works of the highest, then we have to understand that. And then when we understand that, we understand what is the work of Yahuwah. Genesis 2 and 6. We'll make it 2 and 4. Genesis 2 and 4. These are the generations of Shamahim and Arats when they were created in the day that Yahuwah Elohim made the Arats and Shamahim. Every plant of the field before it was in the Arats, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahuwah Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the Arats, and there was no man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the Arats and watered the whole face of the ground. Yahuwah Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground. That takes us back to the dust part that we read in Job. Was that Job? Yeah, it was Job 29 with the sackcloth, forming him in the dust. And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Now, can y'all think of anybody who breathed into somebody to give them life? Let's take a look at 1 Kings 18. Let's see if you can remember. Huh?
He got on top of the boy.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Oh, Zion?
Indeed it was. 1 Kings chapter 17, if it were. I'm sorry, not 18. 17 and 18. Now, Yahuwah breathed the breath of life into him to give him life. Because at the end of the day, it's the Ruach that gives life. That's why he said the flesh profiteth nothing. It's the Ruach that make alive. The words that I speak unto you, they are Ruach and they are life. Without the Ruach HaKadosh, you ain't got no life. And you got to be able to get that from the temple that wasn't made with hands. And when you understand that when you are buried in the death of Yahushua and raised in the likeness of his death, then you were raised in the likeness of the temple that was made without hands, and therefore he can dwell in you. That's why you say you must be born again. You have to be. Stupid niggas be out here telling people being born again is the resurrection of the dead. That's asinine. You ain't getting resurrected from the dead if you wasn't born again before you hit the grave, man. That's asinine. You know what I'm saying? It sounds good when you don't know no better. It sounds real good. 17 and 18. Make it 17 and 17. And it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was sore, that there was no breath left in it. Now, hold on. In the epistle to the Romans, Paul made the statement that while we were yet without strength, Mashal died for the ungodly. Remember, like this here, right? Pause. Ezekiel 37. Because see, this also came to my mind for this here. Stupid niggas using this here. This is the greeting of the nation. We done went over this before, but I got to use it right now. People lead you to hell teaching you stupidity. You know what I'm saying? If you offended, I don't know what to tell you. Because I genuinely don't care. So tell it to somebody who do. But people got to understand what this book talking about. Because they ain't talking about this ignorant stuff. These niggas be out here talking, man. Leading you astray. Leading you in the wrong direction. Ezekiel 37:1. All this still dealing with temple made without hands. Because what you're going to see right here is a temple made without hands. What hands put it together? What ovaries and fetuses and seeds and eggs were used to make this body? Nevertheless, the hand of Yahuwah was upon me and carried me out in the Ruach of Yahuwah and set me down in the midst of a valley which was full of bones. It caused me to pass by them round about. Behold, there were very many in the valley, and lo, they were very dry. He said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahuwah Elohim, you know. And again, he said unto me, prophecy unto these bones, and said unto them, O you dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim unto these bones, behold, I will call breath. So I prophesied, I was commanded, I prophesied there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and his bones came together, bone to bone to his bone. Now, if it's in a dry valley, now it wasn't no bones with Adam, ain't this would be similar to what you seen with Adam in Genesis chapter 2? This is very, very similar, is it not? Is it not a body being made from the dust? What you say? This sounds like a body being made from the dust. We mean if that's taking us back to the first dominion, then this means this is talking about the last dominion. And if it's talking about the last dominion, then people have been misconstrued and what they've been imparting unto us to make the gospel be about you instead of who it ought to be in. And I this giving you hope of everlasting life that you might live. Nevertheless. And when I behold, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then he said unto me, prophecy unto the wind, prophecy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain that they may live. Now hold on. If it's coming for the four winds, what that mean? Contextually in the word. When he talking about the four winds, what that mean? What? Four corners of the earth. Paul, let's look at a statement from Yahushua himself in Matthew 24. We come right back to Ezekiel 37. Let's look at a statement from Yahushua himself. Matthew 24 and 26. He says, wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he's in the secret chamber, believe it not. For as the lightning come out of the east and shine even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For whatsoever the carcass is, the eagles will be gathered together. Now, if it's sliding from the east to the west, ain't that hitting the four winds or the four corners? Immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. The stars shall fall from Shamahim, and the powers of Shamahim shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in Shamahim. Then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. They shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of Shamahim with power and great esteem. And he shall send his Malachim with a great sound of a trumpet. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of Shamahim to the other. So if he gathered up for the four winds and he told Ezekiel to ask the four winds to come breathe breath into the slain, then guess what this tells us? 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. And again, this is the strong man retaining his riches. We just ain't went to the two words for retain and for riches. Because what made him awe-inspiring was that he knew the way of the work of the highest, which was for him to be offered. And for him to be offered, so he could be resurrected. And because he did this, he was able to retain the riches that he had with him from the foundation of the world. But nevertheless, why say I was going that way? Dang, I don't forgot.
No, you the king.
Yeah, but I said I was going somewhere. I forgot. Took that fast. Oh, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Praise you, Lord. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 13. But I would not have you be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that you sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Yahushua died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Yahushua will Elohim bring with him. For this we say unto you by the word of Yahuwah, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from Shamahim with a shout, and the voice of the Ark Malachim, and with the trump of Elohim, and the dead in the Mashal shall rise first. You go read Isaiah 27. Is it 27 or 26? Let me make sure I ain't telling y'all the wrong place. I ain't going to read it right now. Y'all read that on your own time. Yeah, Isaiah 27, you pick it up about verse 12. That man tell you that. Same thing. Same thing. It's also in Isaiah 11. Tell you same thing. About getting you from the four corners of the earth. Isaiah 27 tell you about the trumpet. Isaiah 11 tell you about gathering you from the four corners. Them which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with him in the cloud, them in the cloud, and meet the Lord in the air, and we shall ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with the word. Why do you think he was showing Ezekiel that? Don't you think Ezekiel 37 will be more forceful for comfort? Because he said those that are slain. Well, why were you slain? Because you died with a Mashal. That's why you slain. You're slain to be slain. He said, put some breath in him. You ain't slain because of sin, because he ain't put no breath in no sinner. That's what dudes have to realize. That's the dry bones to wake us up to be in a nation. Why this man gonna put his breath in you and you a sinner? You waking up to your nationality don't make you upright and righteous. You still a sinner. You still got to be born again. Go ahead and get John 3. I mentioned it. Let's get it. John 3 and 5. See, a lot of brews don't like to have that conversation. We all done sin. We know we all done sin. Nigga, why you still doing it? Why you been in it 10 years, you still doing it? You know what I'm saying? When the time period gonna come, you gonna stop being a sinner. The only reason you offended when somebody say people sinners because you won. Ain't a righteous man in this book ever got offended at somebody talking about no sinner. They know they ain't had nothing to do with him. You think Lot was offended? You think Abraham was offended because Sodom and Gomorrah was full of sinners? That ain't got nothing to do with me. He wasn't offended by that. If they sinners, man. It is what it is. It's on them if they choose to stay like that. Ain't supposed to be walking around, we got to be patient. Ain't no got to be patient. That nigga's wicked. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Guess what? You used to be wicked. We used to be wicked. We all used to be wicked. But you know what? But you've been washed. But you've been clean by the regeneration and the gospel of Yahushua HaMashiach. You can't sit back and look at it because other people reject that and we want around here to make excuses for the ungodly and foul behavior. There's a recompense. And that's what they choose to do. That's on them. You know what I'm saying? Nigga, use a sinner, bro. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. And you shouldn't be walking around here, I'm in the word, I'm a sinner. You's a sinner? Well, you going to hell then. That ain't nothing to be proud of. There's nothing proud about being a sinner. It's nothing to boast in. It's nothing to brag about. It's nothing to revel in. That's crazy. You want to be righteous, just, and upright. You want to be a son of Elohim, a daughter of Elohim. You want to be no sinner? That means you a child of the devil. Who wants to be a child of the adversary? Does it even make sense to be a child of the adversary? You are a child of everything you are a child of the enemy against everything that is right. Let that sink into your mind. Who wants to be a child, a member of the household of everything that is contrary to what is just? That makes no sense. I don't want to be a part of that family. That's not a family I want to be in. Nevertheless. Yahushua, this is John chapter 3, verse 5. Yahushua answered, truly, truly, I say unto you, except a man be born of water and of the Ruach, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Ruach is Ruach. Marvel not that I said unto you, you must be born again. The wind blow where it list, and you hear the sound thereof, but cannot tell when it come and whither it go. So is everyone that is born of the Ruach. You don't know what somebody come and go who's of Yahuwah. They make no sense to you. You don't understand them because you don't understand him. He said, but that which is of the flesh is flesh. Well, you got to be born of that Ruach. You got to be born of the breath of Elohim. Is what you seen in Genesis chapter 2 or what you seen in Ezekiel 37. Let's return. You know, give thanks to Yahuwah in the name of Yahushua, man. Yahuwah is good, and his mercy endures forever. And everything that has breath in it ought to praise and esteem his name every single solitary chance they get. Keeping you above ground. Food in your stomach, clothes on your back, roof on your head, and an opportunity to learn of him that he might allow you to enter into his household, that you might dwell in his house and rejoice in his goodness forever. Come on, man. Ain't nothing better than that. Ain't nothing better than that. We're in verse 10. So I prophesied, he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army, because he seen it was more men than the sand of the sea. That's what Revelation told you. And he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Yasharal. Behold, they say our bones are dried and our hope is lost, and we're cut off for our parts. Therefore prophecy say unto them, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves, and I will bring you into the land of Yasharal. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. And shall put my Ruach in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land, and you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken it and performed it, saith Yahuwah. That man say he'll open the grave up and put his breath in. So what does Romans 8 have to say about that? Romans 8 say that Elohim raised Yahusha from the dead by the Ruach HaKodesh. Is that not what it says? So did not Yahusha go in the grave, flesh and bones? Did he not breathe into it and bring him out of that grave? Now let's look at something that Yahusha did after he came out of that grave. John chapter 20, verse 21. Well, John 20 and 20. Let's see what Yahusha did in that regard. Let's see if he did the same thing. Because we dealt with the breathing in at the first, clearly by looking at Ezekiel 37 and talking about 1 Thessalonians 4, chapter 4, we look at the breathing of the breath in you at the last, resurrecting you from the dead. But let's look at another thing that the Lord did. John chapter 20 and verse 20. Make it 20 and 19. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for the fear of the Yahudim, come Yahusha and stood in the midst of them and saith, Shalom be unto you. And when he had so said, he showed them unto him his hands and his side, and the disciples were glad when they saw the Lord. Then said Yahusha to them again, Shalom be unto you. As my Abba hath sent me, even so I send you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them and saith unto them, Receive you the Ruach HaKodesh. Whosoever sins you remit, they are remitted unto them. And whosoever sins you retain, they are retained. He breathed life into them. Same fashion. Let me breathe life into you because you're dry bones, your hopes cut off for your parts. But I done came out the grave, put some breath. Father did it for me. He said, as my Father did unto me, so I do unto you. Now, why did I go through all of that? One, we looked at the witness. Two, we see how he become the second Adam because he was formed from the dust of the ground. And Yahuwah breathed breath in him like he did to Adam, which takes us back to 1 Corinthians 15. You know, the first Adam was of the earth and the second Adam is from Shamahim. When we look at the first Adam, he was male and female created he them and called their name Adam. He had one wife. Second Adam, male and female created he them, and he had one wife. And he called them Yasharal. His fourth is his wife. Same way that he made Eve. And that is why we go one man, one woman. Because that's what it was in the garden in regard to the first Adam. And that's what it is in the garden. Because you remember Yahusha was put in a sepulcher, which was in the garden. All that type of stuff with the second Adam. And we see the same thing. We see the same thing. And this is what made him a strong man. Because this is the same thing that made Adam a strong man. And we done dealt with why Adam went in there and did that with his wife. But we're not going to bring that up again because today's just not that day. Maybe another day. But today is not that day. Let's go back to Proverbs 11. I think I did do the word for lead. But we'll leader, I should say. But we'll be dealing with the rest of that in that regard on tomorrow. I just need to get the word for retain. I believe that's tomorrow, if my memory serves me correctly. We didn't go that long tonight. Just gonna give ourselves just enough. And it is tomorrow. So when we look at retaining, you have Tau, Meme, and Kav. So, you know, you got the hand, the palm, the work. You know what I'm saying? You have the work of the blood of the covenant. This is what allows you to retain your riches. Now, again, we looked at all of that because remember, Yahusha is the temple that Yahuwah made with our hands, and he doesn't dwell in temples made with hands. And we went to all that is because he has to form you and make you in order for him to dwell in you, in order for you to retain that. Well, you can only retain that because of the work of the blood of the covenant. Let's take a look at that. Hebrews chapter 10. It's 9. Hebrews 9. Oh, you look like you finna do the old school game. Y'all used to do that when you was in school. Pitch quarters. Y'all niggas ain't pitching quarters. Y'all niggas wasn't at a bus stop pitching quarters. Yeah, that's it. That nigga wasn't shooting that. The niggas shot dice at school. See, they were pitching quarters while waiting on the school bus. You know what I'm saying? Can't shoot no dice waiting on the school bus. Them niggas got the school shot dice. Yeah, they got the school shot dice. Shoot dice in the bathroom, which is impossible, difficult to do. Them bathrooms was ranked. Right. I don't know what y'all school bathrooms like. Ours was atrocious. 9 and 15. Ours was atrocious. Hebrews 9 and 15. I ain't do no gambling, man. I did used to gamble in college though, at the South Campus, swindling them Asian boys, shooting dice with no money. You know what I'm saying? Once I felt like I got them in the hole a little bit, yeah, let me get my bread, cuz. Let me get my bread. They paid it too. They saying for this cause, he's the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first, they which are called might receive the promise of the eternal inheritance. Again, taking us back to the strong man, to know the way of the works of the highest, in order that the work of the blood of the covenant, because this is how he's retaining his riches, because that first covenant had been broken. Something needed to be done in order to redeem you from that transgression under that, because there was no provision or way that you could be delivered from that, which is why you need to know the witness, which is why we looked at the testimony and the witness and the record on high and the first Adam and the second Adam. And we just didn't mention the fact, because you should have already known that the first Adam brought forth death. So therefore the second Adam had to come through and do that to reverse that. So the breath that got put into you, you would live forever once it was applied. Verse 16, for where a testament is, there must also of a necessity be death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead, otherwise it is of no strength at all while the testator live, which is another reason why Adam had to partake in the tree and die. Is a testament that would have been in force if Adam was alive? If he would have partook of that tree of life, what would have put that in force? That testament or that covenant had to be fulfilled, because that man had to die. Remember, Yahushua slain from the foundation of the world. Nevertheless, whereupon the first testament was dedicated without blood. Neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to Torah, he took blood of calves and goats with water, scarlet wool, hyssop, sprinkled both the book and all the people, saying, this is the blood of the testament which Elohim have enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by Torah purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission. Again, why it goes back to what we mentioned with the blood being poured out and crying under heaven, crying out to Yahuwah, because it wasn't going to be no remission of no sins unless blood was spilled. And remember, what was the son's name that took Seth's? Seth took Abel's place. When you read in the text, it says that Yahuwah gave me another man, another son. Ain't that what it say? That what it say until it is Genesis 4. Let's look at Genesis 4 for those who don't know what I'm talking about. We still got to finish. Well, I guess it's irrelevant for me to finish 1 Kings 17 because I done did all that. But yes, Elijah laid himself on top of the child and breathed on him. And then the child started breathing again. He breathed life into him. And that's showing you the Ruach is what gives life. That breath has to be put into you. And if you haven't been able to ascertain as of yet, those are the riches. But we'll get to a little bit of that in a minute. And then the riches that extend from that. But Genesis 4:25. He said, Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For Elohim said, she have appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom slew Cain. Let's see what it actually says. We got one more word to look at, and then that will be, because we kind of started with the leading on Wednesday, and then we can take everything y'all willing on tomorrow and put it all together and make it a nice pork-free gumbo. Everybody like gumbo. You like gumbo? Oh, you ain't from Louisiana anyway. You ain't gonna like nobody. So it says Adam, Yada, Ishashah, Od, Yaled, Ben, Korah, Shem, Sheth, Elohim, and that's what it says. Basically, it does says, let's look at it again with that Od, which is still yet, again, still moreover besides. Of course, Yada is known or to perceive. Oh, that always was always funny to me when I used to look at shows on TV when I was younger, and they were like, he knows her in the biblical sense. You know, I could put two and two together to realize from the show what they were talking about. But that was always funny to me. You know, Yalad means to bear, if you're not aware, to bring forth, to beget, or to travail. It also could mean somebody who has wicked behavior. Also could be a midwife. But it says she bare Ben. Korah is to call or to recite, proclaim. Dirty whore. Of course, it says his name, so the Shem for Seth. Now, Seth itself means compensation. So if Seth itself means compensation, so basically you looking at Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name compensation. For Elohim, she said, have appointed, which is to put or to set for appointed, me another seed instead of Abel. So Seth is the compensation. You know, Abel means breath. So when you look at this here, Seth is the compensation for the breath, which is the payment, correct? Which would be riches. Your compensation, your wages, your payment. Because the word for riches also means wages. So look at that. You were given compensation because you slayed breath. Well, you slayed breath the same way Adam slayed his breath because of sin. Abel was slain because of sin, not of his own sin, but of the sin of someone else. So we have to give you a compensation, a payment, a wage. Let's look at the word for riches. What may we do for you, sir? What you got going on? Are you supposed to be sleeping at this particular time? No. Are you telling a story? Yes, you are telling a story. A story that is not rooted in fact. Why would you do such a thing? I think it would be wise for you, sir, to begin your journey to sleep. The word for riches is Oshur. It's wealth, it's riches. It's Ayin, it's Shan, it's Raj. So you get to know to be paired to the chief or to the highest. You get to experience that. You get to experience that. That's your compensation because Adam got another son to replace the breath. And what you don't even realize is that with Abel and Seth, you see first Adam, second Adam, and don't even realize it. Because remember, let's look at something in Genesis chapter 5. Genesis 4, what it said by his son. Genesis 4 and 1. And Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I've gotten a man from Elohim. And again, she bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller. That's not looking for. There it is. Genesis 5 and 1. That's what I had in my mind the first time, and that's what I should have went with. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that Elohim created man, in the likeness of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them and Baruch them and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image and called his name Seth. So Adam had a son in his likeness and his image and called him compensation. Doesn't even mention Abel at this juncture. Doesn't even mention Cain. Not because Abel is wicked. Cain's not mentioned because he's evil. But you know, Abel is mentioned in another genealogy. But remember, this is a son in his image and likeness. Because you will see in this instance that Adam and Seth is representative of Yahuwah and Yahusha, or the Father and the Son, and his likeness and in his image. So that means that the Father teaches the Son to be as he is. The same way that he said that Yahusha said in John chapter 5, everything that I see my Father do, so do I do. My Father teaches me this is what I do. So he taught me to be like him. This is why he said that Yahusha thought it not robbery to make himself equal with Elohim. And he said, everything that my Father say to me, I say to you. That's why I call you friends and not servants, because he's teaching you to be like him. So you be like your Father, which is what Father. That's why they hated LeVar Ball so much, and that's why they always kept saying that about Lonzo Ball. He's his own man now, because they hate for a black man to raise his son and teach him to be in his image and his likeness, because they actually want you to rebel against your father and to be against what he says and what he teaches. They want you to rebel. They don't want you to walk in that image and likeness, because in reality, they don't want you to walk in the image and likeness of your Father which is in heaven. You have to pay attention to the subtle treachery, deceit, and wickedness that they do. You got to pay attention to that, because they're running on you and you'll get caught up in it, don't even realize it. So again, when we look at Oshur, the Ayin, the Shan, the Raj, you know and are paired to the highest. Let's take a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And we'll look at the strong man retaining his riches and look at it in that regard. Maybe a little different than we have in the past. Maybe we have done it like this. I just genuinely just don't. Oh, I'm in 2 Corinthians. That's not going to help anyone at all, now, is it? 1 Corinthians 12. Now, concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. You know that you were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led. Wherefore I give to you to understand that no man speaking by the Ruach of Elohim called Yahusha accursed, and that no man can say that Yahusha is Lord but by the Ruach HaKadosh. Now there are diversity of gifts, but the same Ruach. There are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, but it's the same Elohim, which work all in all. And that's where the Sean coming in, because you pair, because it's the same body. Same body. Like when a lot of people say community, assembly, congregation, at the end of the day, it's the body of Yahusha, it's the body of the Lord. That's it, period. It don't get no different, no different than that, no matter how you try to spin it. But the manifestation of the Ruach is given to every man to profit withal. For one is given by the Ruach the words of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Ruach, and to another faith by the same Ruach, and to another the gifts of healing by the same Ruach, to another to the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of Ruachs, to another diverse kinds of tongues, and to another the interpretation of tongues. But all these work that one and self-same Ruach, dividing to every man severally as he wills. So this strong man retained these riches in order to give these riches to his children. But now we'll deal with that part later. Let's look at something. Let's look at a word of wisdom coming from the Lord's mouth. How the strong man can retain wisdom. Let's go to the book of Luke. I just want to use this story because he was catching an old smart mouth man and made him look like a fool. So, yeah, that's why I want to use that. Hold on. I got to remember where it's at. I've never been able to recall it all my years off the top of my head where that store is located. I don't want to give it away quite yet, but I'm about to do it in a moment. Yeah, we're gonna have to go and get it here. My doggone legs hurt tonight, even squatting. Catching up from yesterday, I suppose. Getting back on point. Luke chapter 10. Let's see where I want to start at. 10 and 23. Let's look at a word of wisdom. And then we'll come back and look at the next thing of what he mentioned, of how he retained those riches and then was able to dispense that. And he turned unto his disciples and said privately, Baruch are your eyes which see the things that you see. For I tell you that many prophets and kings have desired to see those things which you see and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear and have not heard them. Behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said unto him, What is written in Torah? How read you? And he answering said, You shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, as your neighbor as yourself. And he said unto him, You have answered right, this do, and you shall live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Yahushua, And who is my neighbor? Yahushua answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed on by the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at that place, came and looked on him and passed on by the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took 2 pence and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him. And whatsoever you spend more, when I come again, I will repay you. Which now of these 3 think you was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, He that showed mercy on him. Then said Yahushua unto him, Go and do likewise. He hit him off with a smooth taste of wisdom for his smart mouth. And that's some wisdom for you, for a smart mouth nigga, because he tried to justify himself. Now that's just like a nigga. You ask this man, what do you got to do to get eternal life? You give the answer, you answer correctly, but yet that wasn't sufficient for you because you had to be a jackass. And in turn, he made you feel stupid. Well, who's my neighbor? But see, that's wisdom right there, because he showed you how to move and how to and the skill into doing so. And the fact that when the man saw him, he didn't do this like when people do stuff. I just want to feel good inside. He seen him and he had compassion on him. And because he had compassion on him, he sought to assist him. Now, Yahuwah will reward that man at the resurrection of the dead. Whether that was that man's thought and intent for doing it or not is grossly irrelevant, because that's where his reward come in at. Let's look at the next thing it mentioned. Well, hold on. Let me think of somebody in this and after the Gospels who he gave a word of wisdom to, for the people to know what to do. I think that would be apropos. I probably shouldn't go through all of these things like I was about to. Because I definitely was about to. Because we'll be here all night. I ain't even finished Acts chapter 7 either. So let me go back and finish that. I forgot all about that. No, I did finish it. I finished what I wanted. All I was coming to Acts chapter 7 for was when Stephen saw Yahushua in heaven. An awesome and awe-inspiring sight, to say the least. Same thing that Paul seen. So let's look at a word of wisdom. We might can use Stephen for his word of wisdom. Let's look, Acts 6 and 8. Dang, my legs hurt. Your legs hurt when you was squatting all day, bro? I bet you don't do them too often. This nigga probably said, we feel alive. That's a good deal. You get a testosterone release with that. You know what happens when that happens? You gain muscle mass and lose fat everywhere. Stephen, full of faith and power, did great wonders and miracles among the people. And there arose certain of the synagogue, which is called the synagogue of the Libertines, and the Cyrenians and the Alexandrians, of them of Sicilia and of Asia, disputing with Stephen. They were not able to resist the wisdom and the ruach by which he spake. Then they suborned men which say, we heard him speak blasphemous words against Moses and against Elohim. And they stirred up the people and the elders and the scribes and came upon him and caught him and brought him to the council, set up false witnesses which said, this man ceased not to speak blasphemous words against the Kadash place and the Torah. For we have heard him say that this Yahushua of Nazareth shall destroy this place and shall change the customs which Moses delivered us. And all that sat of the council looked steadfastly on him and saw his face, had it been the face of a Malachim, which take us back to what we were talking about. Oh, that's the segue. To finish what we needed to finish. Remember, we taught it, we started in this Ecclesiastes 8 about a man's wisdom making a man's face to shine, and how Yahushua's face appeared like lightning. And now you see Stephen with the same thing. But it mentioned that Yahushua had eyes like the lamps of fire. So of course you should know that the lamps are usually burning orange or amber or red, if you will, taking us back to Genesis 49 and the fact that he said his eyes will be red with wine. Same thing, I think you see the same thing in Isaiah 63, the same thing you see in Revelation, because he saw the Lord. Now you look at him with the wisdom that he possessed, that Stephen possessed, it made his face shine as if it was a Malachim they were looking at, because this strong man retained his riches, and therefore he was able to impart these riches unto his seed. He was able to impart these riches unto his seed. Because remember, Isaiah 53 says he shall see his seed and they shall prosper in his hand. We'll be dealing with that in a different fashion than you might be surmising. A word of knowledge. Let's look at a word of knowledge that the Lord dropped. Let's look at it, see what I want to choose for a word of knowledge. Let's go to Matthew 22. You know what? No, because I opened straight up. Well, I did. It's the very same chapter. And we can just run it on down. Matthew chapter 22 and verse 28. Praise the Lamb. Therefore, the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the seven? For they all had her. Case in point, while we're reading this is dealing with that Deuteronomy 25 that we dealt with last week of what they're mentioning. You know, one woman was married to several brothers. They all kept dying. Then if they were able to raise up a seed unto the brother who deceased. Yahushua answered and said unto them, you do err, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of Elohim. So now he's going to give them a word of knowledge. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are the Malachim and Shamahim. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that which was spoken unto you by Elohim, saying, I am the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob. Elohim is not the Elohim of the dead, but of the living. And when the multitude heard this, they were astonished at his doctrine. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, saying, Master, which is the greatest commandment of Torah? Yahushua said unto him, you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like unto it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all Torah and the prophets. Again, dropping knowledge. Let's look at some more knowledge. While the Pharisees were gathered together, Yahushua asked them, what think you of a Mashal? Whose son is he? They say unto him, the son of David. He said to them, how then do David and Ruach call him Lord, saying, Yahuwah said unto my Lord, sit on my right hand till I make your enemies my footstool. If David then called him Lord, how is he his son? And no man was able to answer him a word, neither do any man from that day forth ask him any more questions. Now, he dropped knowledge in three different areas. Now, he did him smooth on that one there because he called them niggas ain't know what to do. He knocked him right on in. He said, well, if David called him his Lord, how is he his son? They said, we don't know how to answer that. We don't know how to answer that. Where can we read one of his sons dropping knowledge? Peter in Acts chapter 2, telling them how all those things were bearing witness to his death and resurrection. She's dropping knowledge. Let's go back. Let's look at another thing. We did knowledge. We did wisdom, faith. Well, you say, we already read that earlier in John chapter 2. Destroy this temple, and I'll rear it up in 3 days. We talked about faith last week when Paul got stoned and went right back to preaching right after that. With that being said, because I don't even want to start the second part of what we have, because we'll be running it together, and I want to make sure that it's all put together. See, all this stuff would have came to a conclusion tonight if we wouldn't have had the technical difficulties that we had last week. But that was Yahuwah's will, so let it be accomplished. But for right now, we'll say hallelujah for Yahushua. We'll stop that right here where we at, because there's no need to keep pressing and stacking stuff on top of stuff just for the purpose of stacking. We've looked at how this strong man retained his riches. We started on Wednesday as forth as him being a leader and commander of the people who you ought to hearken to. We'll be parlaying that into another area to bring all that into play, because we see that he knows the way of the work of the highest. So therefore, he's able to bring forth the work of the blood of the covenant, so that he's able to, so you're able to know and be paired to the highest. Well, what are we going to be looking at that for? Because like we said, we started that with looking at that virtuous woman, looking at Baal is the word for husband, and Ish for the word for husband, and how this woman is paired to her husband. We also started looking at that in regards of what we just mentioned in Genesis chapter 5, that Seth had a son. Adam had a son, Seth, his compensation, who was in his likeness and in his image. And we'll be looking at how those things play together by looking at the husband side of things, and how the strong man retained riches, what he does with those riches, how he imparts those riches unto his offspring. The same way that we looked at this gracious woman retaining her honor. We have to look at how, because remember we talked about this before, like you should adore your husband. You should look at him with admiration and respect for what manner of man that he is in regards to the things that he does, how he directs and leads the household. All that romantic stuff, man, and all that other stuff, that's not about culture, man. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. That's somebody else's stuff. And that's why our people in specific have a large issue and problem when it comes to that regard, because you're taking bits and pieces of people's culture and then you trying to mix it with your culture. And that's just not going to work out right when it comes to the advent of this man with this woman. You know what I'm saying? You have to take everything that these people have ever told you as far as interpersonal relationships between a man and a woman and flush that down the toilet. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not going to lead for success in regards to manifesting the will of your creator according to the culture which he handed down to you by the way of his servant Moses. You know what I'm saying? Because the objective is to show forth the righteousness, power, goodness, love of the living Elohim through all of us. And that starts with the man. Period. That starts with the man. Nothing, the woman has nothing to do with nothing in that regard. It starts with the man. That's who the responsibility lies at, because he is the person who Yahuwah has ordained to be the head and to be the leader and to be the spokesman and the guider and the teacher and the protector. You know what I'm saying? And his representative on the earth. And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And the woman follows him. And therefore the children follow him. He has to set that stage, because Yahusha don't follow Yasharal. So a man ain't got no business following his woman. That's asinine, that's backwards. You know what I'm saying? And I had brought back the memory talking to my people's band and talking to East, like, you know what I mean? Like, shoot. That debate that I had years back, I did that on the strength, because that's my, so that's my man. That's my man. That's my people. So, and dudes getting upset about me taking a stance, nah, a woman can't do that, bro. And we started off in the beginning looking at Adam, that Yah made Adam to be the leader and the teacher and the guider of Eve. That it's backwards for the woman to provide, teach, and protect a man. That's not the order. And all dudes kept saying, well, my grandma taught me the word. Is my grandma going to hell for teaching me the word? Yes, she is. Why? What? Because she was being rebellious and disobedient to the order and structure that Yahuwah laid, period. You think it's about the teaching. It's about the blatant disregard and wanton disobedience to what the man has said. That's the problem. You know what I'm saying? The problem is not the act in and of itself. The problem is the disobedience and the rebellion and the unbelief. You know what I'm saying? And the disorder and the confusion. I never understood before I got in the word how a man can sit down and listen to a woman teach him scriptures. That made absolutely no sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, how? I don't understand that. Didn't make sense to me at all. You know what I'm saying? And dudes like this here. Dude tried to say that women were teaching the Lord, and nigga tried to say that Miriam taught Moses. All this type of stuff. Niggas vagina worshipers, man. You supposed to be a man. I can remember that junk clear day. And the debate on YouTube too. You know what I'm saying? It's on Debate Talk for You on his channel. I don't think I ever put it on ours. I don't even know how to do that. Anyway, dude was like, "You hate women." Dude's always using that psychological ploy to get you to conform to what they got going on because you don't worship vagina. I worship Yahuwah, period. You know what I'm saying? I don't worship no woman, man. Notice he ain't never say, "Cursed be the man that trusteth in woman." He say, "Cursed be the man that trusteth in man." Solomon already told you, he find a woman more bitter than death. So you's a damn fool. You put your trust in a woman. You know what I'm saying? In that regard, you know what I'm saying? We already know what Proverbs say. You got you a good, strong woman, and you know you can trust that you could give her your heart and know that she ain't gonna spoil it. She ain't gonna take nothing from it. She ain't gonna destroy it. Those are two different things. You know, if you curse for trusting a man, you know full well you curse for trusting a woman. That's just common sense. You know what I'm saying? And these women on here, and every one of them on here can tell you they don't want no weak man who worship them because they know that this man not fit to lead them. And this ain't nobody who they necessarily want to breed with. They don't want to have offspring from this man because they know their son's going to be weak and their daughter's going to be stupid. That doesn't appeal to them. Ain't no real woman on this earth want to lead no man and be over no man. She wants a man who she can safely know that she knows that he's going to direct her in righteousness and she knows where he's going to take her because he's going to sit down and make it plain. The same way the Lord sat down with you and made it plain of where he was going to take you. So in that regard, it was easy for you as his wife to follow him because you already know my husband know what he's doing and he know where he's going. You'll yield. A woman can't yield to a man who's an idiot, and you're an idiot because you have no plan. That's what makes you an idiot, because you didn't have any foresight. You're a two-dimensional thinker. You think off emotion and react off emotion, and you go as you please and you move off a whim. No real woman's going to trust that. She's not going to trust you with her submission in that regard. If she knows that you know where you're going, you got the vehicle how to get there, you laid it out there to her, then she'll be willing to get in the car with you and let you drive and not be like, no, you need to turn here, you need to turn here. She's not going to do none of that. She's just going to put her feet up and look beautiful in the passenger seat and ride because she going to know, because you know when you need her help, she either perceive that you need the help and do it, or when you tell her, she going to do it because she already know. My husband know where you going. I'm cool. Everything cool over here. We know where we going. We know how we going to get there. He already told me before we started the car. He didn't tell me once he started the car. That's backwards. Well, where are we going? I tell you when we get there. Nigga, what? That's backwards. That's what we've been taught to do. Start the car and start going on a trip and pick somebody up and tell them, come on, where you going? We just riding. And then the woman don't know no better, so she just get in the car and ride with this nigga. Next thing you know, you've been doing just like your forefathers did in the wilderness, walking in the circle for 40 years. Ain't went nowhere. End up back in the same place. You know what I'm saying? Versus the man that sat down with this woman and said, well, check this out. Boom, boom, boom. This is where we going. This the route we gonna take. These some of the things we gonna pick up along the way that's gonna help this be a faster trip. She said, you know what? I trust you with that. I'll get in the car with you. Let's go. You don't have no problem. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? So therefore she know where you're gonna take her offspring at. She can trust you with her offspring. Because a woman is a nurturer by nature. She's gonna be protective of her offspring. You very rarely hear a woman say, I'll die for my husband. But you hear a woman always say, I'll die for my children. That's her nature. If she any type of woman, if y'all put that in, because some women don't love their kids like that. Some women don't give a damn about their kids. Not a single solitary one. Don't care if they eat, don't care if they breathe, don't care if they clothe, don't care if they stink, don't care if they clean, don't care nothing about them. But a woman who do, she want to make sure this man can do what he do to protect her children and in all regards, so her heart can rest easy. Because women worry about their kids constantly. You know what I'm saying? They worry about them constantly. They may not show it. They may not wear it on their face, but they think about them. Have they eaten? Are they okay? Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? That's their nature, because they children, they carried that baby. They felt that baby move inside of them. You know what I'm saying? They pushed that child out. So if they're any type of woman, they have a real kinship with that child. And that child mean a lot to them. And they want to make sure that they can entrust that child and a man with a man who know what he gonna do with them children. But you know what? We'll deal with that on tomorrow. But I bless everybody at the house of y'all name of Yahushua. I appreciate everybody's time. Stay firm in Yahuwah, man. Stay rooted. Let Yahushua flow all through you. You know what I mean? Make sure you move forward. Get that ruach in you. Y'all will on tomorrow. We'll be at Regency. Pick it up again. Add some more blocks. Keep stone in your mind. You mentioned in Genesis 28. And keep all those things in your heart. And y'all willing, we'll put all the pieces of the puzzle together that we started on Wednesday and added on tonight. And y'all willing to give us some wisdom, some understanding that we might be able to perfect ourselves in His sight. Now that I'm thinking about it, we got some more stuff in Proverbs. It might not be in the chapter that we in. So deal with something that I mentioned earlier. And it'll probably be apropos based on what we're looking at to just go ahead and do that now. We'll be staying in Proverbs. We just won't be going in chronological order. But, give thanks to Yahuwah, man. Yahuwah is good. His mercy endures forever. Bless your Shabbat. It's a beautiful opportunity where you got a 24-hour period where you have no distractions and anything in the world. And all you got to do is set your heart, mind, and soul on Him who gave you life. Not only just the life of your natural life, but Him who gave you the opportunity at eternal life. You ought to relish that every time it comes around, because that's what the Shabbat is representative of. The gift of eternal life, the gift of rest and shalom, rest from your sins, rest from your labors. Sit back to understand that you acknowledge on this day this man laid down, so you can lay down all your burdens upon Him and take up a yoke that's light and easy, that you might have a chance to dwell with Him, behold His face, sing praises to His name, honor Him and esteem Him and worship Him. You know what I mean? See, but that might not do it for everybody. That does it for me. I can't speak for everybody else. That does it for me. That's enough for me. You know what I'm saying? That's enough for me. You know what I mean? Amen indeed. That's enough for me. I understand what He's done for us. I appreciate it, especially considering that I knew how stupid and idiotic that I was before the hearing of the gospel. So I appreciate it. Hold it near and dear to my heart. Without it, I have absolutely nothing and have no reason whatsoever to continue to live. See, if there's no Yahuwah, without Yahuwah, what life do you have? I don't got no life. If I ain't got Yahuwah, I have no desire to remain alive. Or remain alive for what? You know what I'm saying? I sincerely feel that way. If I don't have Yahuwah, what purpose is there to be alive? There is no purpose. You know what I'm saying? There is no purpose. You know what I'm saying? The goodness that He showed through Yahushua is my purpose. Because that purpose is what is going to allow me to sustain life. All that other stuff that dudes be on, more power to them, man. I'm not on that. You know what I'm saying? You niggas arguing about, I just want life, man, at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? I know every single solitary minute, every second, every hour, every day, every month, and every year is closer for me to having no more portion under the sun. But I got to make sure that I have a portion in heaven, that I will still have a portion under the sun. If you understand what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Some don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? Some do. I pray that you souls that care about that though you may not have a portion under the sun, that by that breath that we read about this evening, that ruach that you will receive, you will still have a portion under the sun. Make that be your only objective and goal. And with that being said, again, bless us out the house of Yah, name of Yahshua. Stay firm, stay strong. Yahuwah willing, on the morrow, we'll pick it up again. But until that time, I will bid you adieu. Good grief.